Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to the Intentional Living Podcast. Good afternoon, John Donovan, my co-host and co-conspirator.
How you doing, Marty Keller?
I'm doing,
Um,
I'm participating well in my life, and I'm enjoying it.
yep.
We're
Me
having
too.
those of you who watch this regularly know that I'm in Sacramento, California, and John's in Oceanside, California. We're having an Oceanside kind of day weather-wise here. It's absolutely balmy. Yesterday is the first day we've been over 70 this winter.
Oh wow,
So it's been quite lovely. But for
very
those of you
nice.
who might be here for the first time, this Intentional Living podcast is focused on helping all of us learn to break patterns of behavior that occur when we say, I don't want to do that, and I do it anyway. So something is going on in my subconscious that compels me to do things I say I don't like. Well, what am I talking about? Well, John has you have some great questions that you've always used. Like, have you ever hurt someone you loved and later regretted it and then hurt them again in the exact same way? Or have you ever realized in the middle of an argument that you were on the wrong side, but you continued to argue your perspective anyway? Or have you ever been about to do something or say something that you knew you would regret? Maybe even literally heard a voice in your head saying, don't say that or don't do that, and you did it anyway? Those are the kinds of behaviors that we're talking about, things that um, we in our conscious minds we say don't do it, and something in us pushes us to do it anyway.
Yeah.
So in this podcast, in the Intentional Living Podcast, we examine and uncover the subconscious obstacles to what we want, that we say we want in our conscious minds, and then we learn to befriend them. We learn to make them allies in manifesting the life that we want to live. This is intentional living. John and I have been talking about this together on this podcast for the last 5.5, 6 years. And so, for those of you who are newcomers, there's a whole library of topics about the intentional living process. I invite you to just check them out. Lots of we have lots of podcasts, John, that have the title of like beginners mind or ABCs or introduction to intentional living. So
Right.
those of you who'd like to check those out, and John and I do that. We'll do this on a regular basis. We go back to the basics and talk about them because we keep learning. So there's
Right.
always something new for us to contribute. But in this, for the last 4 or 5 months, we have been going through what we call the accountability practice principles, and these are a series of ideas or thoughts or laws, if you will, that help us deal with understanding ourselves, understanding our compulsions, understanding the wounded child that lives within each of us, and understanding the process of healing and understanding why it is sometimes we, even with our awareness that we can get some healing, we resist that too. So before we take a look at those, John, and pick up on today's topic, any thoughts or reflections that you'd like to add?
This has been powerful. It's been exciting and a pleasure for me to go through these what we call principles. Like it's never about the other person or people treat me exactly the way I asked them to because it sparks curiosity. It's like um, gets people leaning forward about what are these guys talking about? How does that work? Um, and at first, it's difficult to make sense out of it, which is what we're looking for. If you and I are talking about things and everybody's going, "Oh yeah, I know that," then we're part of the problem. We're part of whatever the presenting problem is. And when people listen to other people, it's like I listen to Rudolf Steiner, and sometimes I gotta like go over what he was saying because it, like, wait a minute, let me hear this again because that didn't click. So that's what we do. I believe that's my intent anyway, is to create curiosity about this intentional living material and practice. So
Sure. And
let me put this on
sure.
mute.
And let's be fair to our colleagues and the people that we do this work with, and to the newcomer. A lot of what we say is counterintuitive to the social norms or beliefs. Something that you used to call male role belief system. That's we can call that sort of the prevailing narrative or
Yep.
whatever
Paradigm.
paradigm. And so oftentimes what we'll say something like the issue is not the issue. Hardly original to us, but it's often something that people will go, what do you mean the issue is not the issue? So we're just we're just offering some insights into, again, mostly the subconscious mind, where most of the action really is for human beings, since
Yes.
studies show anywhere between 90 and 99% of the mind is in the subconscious realm, depending on how you measure that.
Yep.
So, and a lot of our principles just help illuminate what's going on in that subconscious mind. So I'm going to put them. I'm going to put them on the share screen, John, just
Okay.
to go over these real brief, quickly for our auditors. And we started back in October with the first one on the list. Now, I've said this before. I'll emphasize that these are not in order of importance. These are just in order of the way we thought of them. So
Right.
each one of these has, to me, has equal value. And again, you can make up your own mind on any of these for yourself.
Right.
We started with I'm always getting what I want, a nice controversial one. And there's our first counterintuitive one. It's never about the other person. The issue is not the issue. People treat me the way I want them to. The quality of my life is determined by the focus of my attention.
Yep.
Life happens for me, not to me. What I resist persists. Hurt people hurt people. The world outside of me is but a reflection of the world inside me. Life is lived from the inside out. Oh, here's another one. It doesn't have to make sense.
Right.
Trust the body. Blame free, judgment free. Healing is contagious. The more conscious we are of what we choose, the more powerful the choice. Every thought has a corresponding body sensation. And the one that we worked on the last couple of weeks, personalize everything. Don't take anything personally. And again, just to emphasize, particularly for the newcomer, each one of these principles has at least one podcast where we go through it and discuss it, as we will the very next one today. So feel free to refer to the library and check out any one of these that don't make sense to you, or you don't like, or are curious about. Today, we want to talk about this one. The answer is not the answer. And so
Wow.
toss the ball to you, John, and let's start with what does that mean to you? How do you hear this, and what does it reveal?
I had one of those moments, epiphany moment, God moments, and I believe it was when I was younger, and I in the last 20 years remembered it. But I was laying on my bed, and I'm assuming there was some trauma going on, which is not a big assumption. And I felt myself going out of my body up, and I could see myself on the bed. And then I went out, and I could see the house. And then I went out, and I could see the earth. And one of those where I just kept going out, and I went out like past the solar system, and I was looking back at the earth. And then all of a sudden, this epiphany came. And how I articulate it is the question is the answer, is joy. And then boom, I was back. Um, so in my work, in my own recovery, I went to recovery. I go to therapist, looking for relief or looking for an answer, a reason, a why, and the answer. Now, I figure if I get the answer, then I'll be okay. If I just know what this, and what I found is that moves. It's like a moving target. if I get an answer, it never brings the relief I thought it would or should, and yet there was still more dilemma or consideration, or what I know now, more concern in my life to pay attention to. And I've since 2000 have been a drug and alcohol counselor working in the field, actually since 1998, and most of the people coming into the rooms, into the outpatient or inpatient, wherever I was working, were looking for an answer. And they'd come in the group and look at me like, oh, okay, oh, this guy's got the answer. And I had never, I, I have information. So one kid, a young kid today in class, it was the last day, he asked me to give him some advice, which I don't give advice, I give information. So I told him that this, whatever answer you're looking for isn't the answer. That it's a moving target. It's more important the question you formulate. That's more important than any answer. And if you think of answers, they're more like building a foundation from which to view from, so that your next question now has this framework in it, which makes a question bigger or more, a broader view or more in depth. And it's been my experience that is a continuing, ever expanding, infinite process.
A couple of things. Yeah, thank you. A couple of things jump right out at me from what you shared. And that is one of the most important ones is that if I pay attention to my questions, I may actually be able to discern a pattern of curiosity or a pattern of concern or both that generates these questions. And one of the things I've learned in our intentional living work together is that the more I can notice the pattern, the more information about myself I can get. So it's not necessarily any one answer. So today the answer to the question might be X, but tomorrow the answer might be Y.
Correct.
But there's a pattern to why X and then why Y showed up that might also be revelatory, might tell me something I couldn't see for myself.
Yeah.
So just the first thing off the top of my head from listening to what you just shared is that every answer is essentially a hypothesis, or it's a tentative statement of information. It ain't the end. Something's always going to come along and supersede it.
Yes.
In other words, I'm going to know more about this, whatever this is, tomorrow than I did yesterday.
Correct. When I first went into either therapy or recovery, my motivation was, I want to say, riddled. One of the things I say is you cannot solve a problem with a consciousness that created the problem. And whatever my experience had been up until whatever decision moment I come to, that decision, without anything added to it, it is part of the obstacle that's keeping me from having, say, I want peace of mind. So I go to a therapist. So my question is, what's wrong with me? Well, and then they would give me answers like, well, actually, John, the answer is inside you, which made no sense whatsoever. I mean, it's like, it's obviously not in here or I would have it. And I'm telling you, I don't have it. But then you tell me it's in here. It's like, wait a minute, why am I paying you all this money? It's like, come on. Now I understand. Oh, the answer is inside me. Oh, so instead of looking outside of myself to come to peace, to have certainty and tranquility, I look at what's going on inside of me that's blocking peace and secure and tranquility, which now makes perfect sense to me. But before it wasn't the the thing. And the reason I went to the motivation for me to go to therapy and or recovery was the thought, I'm broken. I need to be fixed. Well, again, people would say, John, you're not broken. You may be confused. I'll give you that. You're not broken. And I will wait a minute. Let me tell you where I'm at, and I'll prove to you I'm broken. Look at this. Nobody broken person people. This is where they end up, and it's like, no, you're not. You're not broken. We're going to offer you some information. Of course, that's not what they said, and that's not what I heard. I was just arguing with them that yes, I am. I'm broken. You got to fix me. You got to tell me what's wrong.
And part of the trap in all this stuff is I'm trying to think of the right way to introduce this. I get trapped in my thinking mind. And when I'm in my thinking mind, I no longer permit other sources of information to come to my awareness.
Correct.
And so the answer is not the answer. It's like my thinking mind is actually designed, and particularly the left hemisphere of our minds, our brains, is designed to always find answers.
Yep.
This is part of our structure as human beings. Now, we also have this right hemisphere that doesn't give a shit about answers.
Right.
And is much more interested in the patterns, and it's much more interested in the big picture. And the two of them are designed to work together. But the left hemisphere can be so powerful that it can overwhelm the right.
Yeah.
And then it goes, that's where I'm broken. So that's a thought. That's a belief, but it's a belief that I can endow with great power.
Yes.
To block out other information. And that's one of the reasons that for me, the intentional living process was so revolutionary, because the practice that we do, which we call the accountability tree practice, which we talk about in many of our other podcasts, always starts with feeling. It's almost, I don't know if you deliberately designed it to bypass the thinking mind, but it does that. And
yes, it does.
So when we do that practice, and you will say, or a facilitator of a meeting like myself will say, well, what's the story you're telling yourself, and how do you feel when you say that? It's like it automatically bypasses or invites the bypass of the thought process and to go into the emotional body process, which can't produce an answer that the mind can hear.
Correct.
That's not designed to do that either.
No. So we base our willingness to do the practice to examine what's the one we're working on right now?
The answer is not the answer.
Oh, the answer not designed to bring us into an experience of self, like where you talked about the accountability tree, and there you say the character defect, blame free, judgment free, the outcome of unresolved complex post-traumatic stress, like I lie. Okay, I'm a liar. Nice deep breath. And in that breath, it initiates an emotion according to the statement, and the statement is I'm a liar. It's a statement of truth. I'm a liar, which makes no rational sense. But the liar came from all the information, unresolved childhood trauma. So when I say I'm a liar, it resonates with the trauma, and there's this release. Oh my God, that's not there's for me. There's no words. It's just, of course, I'm a liar. Nice deep breath. I intend to be honest, which affects the information in the subconscious. Is what what do you call it? Unexamined led me to being a liar or lying for, and then we understand now that that was for survival purposes. That's the way I survived in my childhood, so I brought it into my adulthood, and it was subconscious, so I didn't think about it or made excuses for it. This puts me in that emotional field, right hemisphere, feeling tone, and if I could put a word to what that brings to me, owning the character defect or owning the truth, connection to relief, nurturing, self-love, no critical, no judgment, just oh my God, yeah, oh I see, and then I intend to be honest, or I intend to be kind, or I intend to, whatever the intent is a reframe of your subconscious. It heals whatever motivated the lie, which for the child was necessary for survival, necessary in the child's mind to survive. Of course, you're a liar. Oh, okay, nice deep breath. I intend to be honest because I am an adult now, and you know what? I can handle some discomfort by telling somebody the truth, where before I didn't want to hurt their feelings, so I wouldn't tell them the truth, which meant I lied to them or withheld information, which is a lie of withholding. And I can choose to give feedback that is from a compassionate place or from a inclusive place instead of a place of separation or not connected to myself. An example of that would be telling somebody that is overweight. Before I would just say, no, you're not. No, a little bit of weight's not that big a deal. Or I would blurt out, well, yeah, you're fat, which is the truth, but it has no compassion in it. Now I can say, I am. Yes, you are overweight, and I have a concern for you. I'm concerned for you, and that being received now rather than creating separation or angst or conflict or yeah. So I don't know if that was how connected that was, but this process does attend to our emotional body, which for most people that are starting this is very unfamiliar, listening to self. And the information coming to us is through a frequency, a feeling tone in the physical, visceral, muscular, skeletal, visceral system, physical feeling in the body. It's a the feelings I'm talking about now are physical. The feeling of the five senses, see, hear, taste, touch, is about smooth, rough, hot, cold, sensing something outside of ourselves. This feeling is what's inside, which accesses the total inside, which is the conscious and subconscious mind, which is attending to what I refer to as the root of the issue, the condition, which is unresolved complex post-traumatic stress. Healing that subconscious pain, that subconscious hurt, that subconscious humiliation, whatever is in there that's stuck.
Well, and that reminds me of something that we often will say, that when we're working with someone who is really stuck in some emotionally compelling situation.
Yeah.
Maybe it's anger toward a partner, or it's fear of a financial difficulty, or something that seems outside of us. And then but it also seems, as we say at the beginning of our podcast, it seems to have a compulsive element to it. Like I find myself laying awake at night worrying about some terrible thing happening. So
Yeah.
something that's out of proportion to what the actual situation is. And we'll
Right.
often say, and this is what you referred to this a minute ago, which made me think of it. We'll often say, all of these kinds of experiences originate in unhealed childhood trauma, or we'll
Yeah.
say family of origin dysfunction, childhood trauma.
Right.
And so, oftentimes, when people will ask the question, why am I suffering like this? Why is this occurring? We can say, tongue in cheek, well, I know the answer. The answer is family of origin dysfunction, childhood trauma.
Right.
But once again, the answer is not what the person's looking for.
No.
The person is not actually looking for intellectual, mental information. The person's,
Right.
initially, we're just looking for relief.
Yeah.
And relief cannot, because the relief does not originate in a thought, it originates in an unhealed psycho emotional traumatic trauma, or trauma that's still locked up in our psychology and in our bodies.
Yes.
And so there's no intellectual way to releasing that. It can't be done. It's the wrong
No.
instrument.
Right.
The body's the correct instrument. And so
Correct.
um, we can give an answer, but the answer it might satisfy the intellectual part of us. Go, oh, of course. And from an intellectual perspective, that answer is accurate, but it's not practical,
Right.
and it's
Or
not.
doable.
Yeah, and it's
Yeah.
not really what the person's looking for. I'm really not looking for intellectual information. I'm looking for relief, and ultimately, I'm looking for healing, so that this condition where I have compulsive behaviors that seem to run me outside of my conscious mind, that condition can be healed, so that something different starts to emerge, where I no longer have these compulsive behaviors. So another way for us to think about the answer is not the answer. And something else that maybe I'll end my thoughts about this and see what you think, but um, Alcoholics Anonymous and the 12-step programs that spun off from it all make the very bold and black and white statement: this is a spiritual program.
Yes.
Well, spirit to call a recovery program spiritual doesn't make any intellectual sense to me.
Right.
And how many times do people come into AA or Adult Children of Alcoholics, ACA, and get stuck on the second and third steps, which are the steps that acknowledge the existence of a power greater than ourselves, that some people call God or whatever, and we get stuck with that one because God doesn't make sense. God is
No.
not God is not intellectually or mentally provable.
Correct.
And so when we say the answer is not the answer, again, one of the things that we're implying here is the the answer that we're looking for may not actually be what we're looking for, that we're actually looking for something else. And in the question, as you said at the beginning, in the question might be the direction that I'm actually looking for.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I agree. Yeah.
So there's a lot to this one, as there are to so many of these principles. Um, as we're coming to the end of our time together, any last thoughts about the answer is not the answer?
Other than I'm grateful to have another opportunity to examine these principles, and um, hopefully the conversation will spark some curiosity in people to stay or ask different questions or heal, or let's do something different here. Thank you.
Sure. And for those of you who are new to what we're talking about here, we do all of our work in group. John facilitates a meeting on Saturday mornings. I facilitate a meeting on Wednesday afternoons, all this Pacific time. There's also a Monday night and a Thursday night meeting facilitated by two of our colleagues. And so if you'd like to come and ask questions about these principles, come and disagree with us, like to learn more about how this accountability tree practice that we referred to during the course of our conversation today works, please feel free to join us. They're all on Zoom, and the Zoom addresses and the times are listed at the end of the podcast. So we will welcome you to come and figure out or listen to discussion, watch other people figure out these things for themselves through this process that we offer here, and see what happens. Love to meet you.
Yeah, very good.
So
Thank you.
with that, you bet. Thank you, John. With that, we'll say goodbye, and we'll pick up the next principle next week.
Yes.
All right. Take care.
Uh-huh.